Hello Cancer, and welcome to your monthly horoscope for July for the Sun or the Ascendant. I'm going to give you all the key features, give you an outline of what to expect. Please stay with me. I will then dive deep to give you in intricate detail all the ins and outgoings of your particular sign's prospects. So as you come into this new month, you can glory in the power of the new moon in your sign, which occurred on the 29th of June. So that's still permeating energy into your situation as you come into this month. And if you recall, that was in a square with the planet of growth, optimism, and crucially of good fortune, Jupiter. So that energy is still very powerful. Jupiter is in house 10. This is how you connect with the world at large. It's about your ambitions, your aims, your desire to gain greater visibility for your talents. And the Sun in your sign is about the need for you to express your individual abilities, to live in the moment. So that's a very exuberant combination that takes you into the month. It's just that, if you recall, Mars and Pluto were in a square as June came to a close, and that's still in place as we come into this new month. So I need to work through that for you. Also, as this month begins, both Mercury and Venus are actually cosseted away in a rather quiet place. So you've got a bit of a paradox between the most visible energies of Mars and Jupiter in house 10, the thrust of the Sun in your own sign, but Mercury and Venus in house 12, which is very reflective, much more spiritually orientated. Well, I have great news that Mercury is going to be entering your sign on the 5th, but also Mars is going to be moving too, so I need to tell you about that. And crucially, also, Venus is going to be entering your sign on the 18th. Really exciting. And then the Sun returns home to Leo on the 22nd. It governs the sign of Leo, and that can be important for your financial situation. But at the heart of this month, there is a full moon in your opposite sign, and you're going to get a reprise of the energy that went on during that eclipse series about 3 years ago between your sign and Capricorn, which was really quite tense. You're both cardinal signs, and there's going to be more of that this month as the Sun in your sign clashes with Pluto, the full moon itself, and also Mercury briefly goes face to face with Pluto too. So do stay tuned to get all of that. If you would like to ascend above zodiac astrology and understand more about how Sirius astrology can help guide you in your life, if you give me 3 pieces of personal birth data of time, date and place, I can give you a roadmap that can guide you for the rest of your days, and also a 12-month personal forecast. No 2 charts are the same, totally individual to you. And you can get 30% off with my special offer, so please see the link below. Finally, I'm nearly there at that 100,000 subs mark. If you have done so already, I'm very grateful. If you've yet to do so, I'd really appreciate it if you did. Please click or tap on the bell notification symbol. But please stay with me for the inside track on your July. So Cancer, your in-depth forecast for July sees that very exuberant new moon. And that could, especially if you're someone who's very entrepreneurial, very creative, very much lives in your own spirit, really gain some extra traction for all those pursuits, energies and desires in the early part of this month, as long as you're not too troubled by the combination of Mercury and Venus being in your 12th house, because that suggests that there could be some very sensitive strands around relationships that you may need to pick through that could be a bit distracting if you do want to be very singular minded around ambitions. Now, also that combination between Mars and Pluto, the 2 rulers of Scorpio, they're in a square. Pluto in house 7, the power of relationships has been a big factor in your world since 2008. Some people may have made way during that time. You may have forge new, very powerful alliances. But with having Mars in a very visible position, the 10th house is all about desire, but it can be about ego. You could find yourself in a very tense standoff with someone if they see something differently to you. Now, your sign is very much about nurture. It can be very much about security, emotion, feelings. But even though you are not necessarily obviously and overtly aggressive, often you do like to predicate a degree of control in situations because you're a cardinal sign. But you got Mars, the ruler of the key cardinal sign, the first sign of the zodiac, house 1, Aries, very, very strong for you, but it's competing with Pluto in another cardinal sign of Capricorn. So something has to give. So maybe there's a situation that requires a little bit of give and take. And that's going to be a bit of a theme all through this month. It's possible that something you feel very passionate about, you may just have to deflect some opposition. If you just refuse to budge, then it could become quite intense indeed. So I'm going to explain all this to you, but there are enormous opportunities within all this. And one of the ones that I love is that on the 5th, Mars moves out of that 10th house and into the 11th house. Now, Mars in the 11th house is rather akin to the energy of Aquarius. It's a bit more democratic. It needs to feel individual, but it doesn't mind working in some kind of collaborative way with others. But of course for you, House 11 is also Taurus, which can be stubborn. So interesting, but on the same day, and this is really important, Mercury moves into your sign. So if you have felt a little bit it's almost been a situation where you felt very single-minded, but perhaps insecure in some way, or self-doubting. There may be part of you that's been very clear about what you want to achieve, but actually how you get there may have been not completely clear to you. With Mercury moving into your sign and Mars moving into the sign of the future, the 11th house, or the house of the future, I think you're going to start to feel a lot happier from the 5th of this month. Also in week 2, the Sun in your sign forges a super sextile with Uranus. Now, Uranus is the planet of truth, but it's not at its best in Taurus. All these world events that we got going on at the moment happened the last time around about 87 years ago, if we take into account when Uranus first moved into Taurus in 2018 for 5 months, been there full time since March the 7th, 2019. But that's when we had the Second World War started to build up from about 1935 onwards. So we got a repeat of that going on because Uranus takes 84 years to go through its cycle, and it's very challenged in the sign of Taurus because it's known to be in full, F-A-L-L, not its best location. The other thing is that Uranus likes change and Taurus really doesn't. It's a fixed sign and really much more savours continuity and stability and things being fairly continuous. So I would say that the angle between the Sun in your sign and Uranus in your 11th house of the future is asking you to try to be as future forward in all your approach, whether it's how you embrace technology, modern day working, how you can use your skills in some kind of imaginative way. Anything which has a newness about it that's forward thinking can really prosper in week 2 of this month if you can embrace that part of your nature. Now from the 11th through to around about the 15th, there's a lovely angle also between Venus in your 12th house and Saturn in your 8th house of resources. There may be something that's going on behind the scenes. Could be something that could give you some kind of payout with Saturn in your 8th house, but maybe your relationship to how this can be influenced. It may be that you're not the decision maker, but if you can represent yourself with a degree of diplomacy and work well with someone who is the decision maker, that can be to your advantage. But that does bring us to the full moon on the 13th in your opposite sign. And really and truly, someone you encounter may feel that you've been so focused on what you want to achieve that you're not actually very attuned to their needs, which may sound a little un-Cancerian, but I refer to my earlier point that you're a cardinal sign. You are a leader, and you're not just chained to the kitchen sink making homemade apple pies. It's such an outdated archetype. Really, what you want is wherever you are operating, you need to feel a sense of security, and you have a great instinct even for the atmosphere of where you won't feel quite so secure. So whether it's looking for a house, you may see a property online but get a feeling that it's not right for you. You may see another one that's cheaper and think, oh, I like this because it's got good light and good atmosphere. So you're very atmospheric in your approach. But it's possible that you have been investing so much energy with that Sun square Jupiter on your new moon to pursuing what's important to you that someone is feeling a bit left out. But it can be resolved between you, because by the 18th, Venus moves into your sign. Wonderful if you want to give yourself some kind of glamorous makeover. But Venus moving out of the 12th house brings to an end a period of time when maybe things were a little bit tricky between you and someone that you're fond of, but maybe there's been a sense of separation or distance, or a lacking of flow in the communication, or possibly, at its most extreme, someone could leave your life. But because the full moon is in a very positive semi-sextile with Saturn, as long as you're fair and they're fair about the financial side of it, it could work out okay. If one of you wants things more on their terms, so the Sun in the first house, rather than being in concert with the 8th house energy of dividing assets fairly, that could cause some strain. So even if a relationship was coming to an end, Venus moving into your sign can be like the drawing in the sand, but it's very important with that full moon. And then from the 17th through to the 22nd, the Sun and Mercury go opposite Pluto, that making sure that your listening skills are really attuned. And of course, it's not just having a conversation, it's actually comprehending where each of the parties are coming from. And that's where a lot of relationships fall down, because we build stories in our minds. You know, we think someone's saying something that they don't think they're saying at all, and we can take the huff. Or on the other hand, we feel that we can be very clear in our boundaries, which you might be with the Sun opposition with Pluto, and someone may feel that actually you're being quite threatening and forceful when you feel you're just being assertive. So the art of communication between humans is so complex. That's why so many of us not so much get it wrong, but there's so much potential for misunderstanding, because it's not just the exchange of words. So all of that can take quite a lot of working through at the core of this month, and you may need to have a tussle, you may need to have a frank exchange of views, you may need to listen very carefully to how someone feels, but someone could push back on you and let you know that they're not very happy with the lack of attentiveness you've been showing for them, and you may need to take this in your stride. But on the 19th, Mercury, because it's whizzing through 3 signs this month, moves out of your sign and into the sign of Leo. And this can be very good for your finances, because on the 22nd, the Sun joins Mercury, but also returns home. Your sign's ruled by the moon, so therefore that Cancer new moon on the 29th of June was the best new moon of the year for you. The best new moon of the year for Leo happens on the 28th of this month, but it's linking in a trine with Jupiter, the planet of fortune. But for you, that continues in your sector of work and ambition. Some kind of financial providence, serendipity could fall for you at the end of this month, or right into the spine of August. Also, the second house, which the Sun represents for you, is about your sense of self-worth. also about your foundations. So if you've been working hard and finding it frustrating that someone's even questioning your motives because you've been so single-minded and you feel it will benefit others, if you really have dedicated yourself, you can get the financial rewards in the latter part of this month, despite all the strains and stresses that we're all experiencing in terms of costs going up. Now, the last 5 days of this month do see Mars align with Uranus, and that could mean that you could have a really interesting conversation. It could be with someone in your friendship group. If you're single, it's even possible that you could have a steamy clinch with someone that you know, but not necessarily in a relationship way that's going to be lasting. It could be just something for the moment, and you may both be quite content with that. If that doesn't suit who you are at all, that you only want any kind of intimacy where there is a relationship of an emotional kind, which I can completely relate to, then it could be that some kind of connection or electricity around a group situation or a point of principle can either connect you to someone very charismatically or disconnect you to them just as quickly. So something very dramatic can happen at the end of this month. Well, I think it could include some kind of big breakthrough around your financial situation, or if it's not now, it could be into August. So that's exciting. So that concludes your forecast for this month, Cancer. All the best and take care.